What is going on, guys? Sensor here, and today I'm bringing you a competitive scrim. This is my team, the New York Thrust, myself, Bobby Saints and Fears, versus Donut Shop. And Donut Shop is one of those AM teams that seems to have the potential to upset any of the pro teams, and that's what's been going on recently in this Dallas Qualifier bracket. If you guys didn't know, yesterday Optic lost to a team called Infinity, which is Tier, Crudo, and two other players that I can't remember off the top of my head. They lost to them in a best-of-3 online qualifier winners bracket match. I actually watched it myself, and it went to a Game 3 S&D on Standoff, and I was watching it on Merc's channel. He had like 5,000 viewers for it, and it started off pretty good. Merc got the first kill on the guy, and then all of a sudden everything just went downhill from there. The other team was using thermal LMGs with FMJ, so you can only imagine whenever they're pushing or defending the A-bomb on offense or defense, they would just sit back and post up with the thermal and try to spray nade shot and Merc or whoever was at A through a wall. And, you know, I'm not going to take any credit away from Infinity. You know, they did win the match. They won it 6-1, so that's a pretty demanding, promising win. But I just think that, you know, there's too much stuff in this game, and it all needs to be changed soon. And I uploaded a video yesterday explaining my thoughts on Ego and Big Timer's perspective on whether or not if we need a rule change, and what needs to be banned, what doesn't need to be banned, what should and should not be in the game, and if we should or not be grateful for what Vaughn's doing for us. But after watching yesterday's matches and seeing all the upsets happen, like I said, Optic lost to Infinity, Quantic lost to who did they lose to? Let me see. Hold on. Quantic lost to Cloudburst, and Cloudburst consists of DEFX, Enemy, Invoke, and King Stun. They beat Quantic Gaming, who consist of Liar, Nameless, Fizzerp, and Twiz. And these are all very accomplished players. And they lost yesterday to some complete amateur team that I've never heard of in my life. Never heard of these players. They beat Quantic 2-0. You know, it was a best-of-3. It was an online. Quantic's been playing league play, and that probably made their skill not as good as it would be if they were scrimming against pro teams, because they've been playing league play, which means they've been playing a bunch of shitty teams in league play, so it kind of dwindles with your skill for a little bit. But nonetheless, this is a team that Quantic obviously should have beat. You know, they're Cloudburst. Who's Cloudburst? Nobody knows who Cloudburst is. And, you know, they ended up 2-0 in Quantic, so that's another upset that happened yesterday. Dare almost lost to XZ8. That was an actually really cool match. Dare was down 3-1 in the CTF. They lost the first map, and they came back and they tied it 3-3, and it went to overtime 4-4, and Dare pulled it out. And then that game went to a Game 3 search, and Dare won 6-5 when it was 5-5. So that was a really cool match to watch. They almost got upsetted by XZ8. I don't even know who the hell XZ8 is. I don't know half these teams that are upsetting all these pro teams in this bracket. It's crazy to see this all happen. And now it seems that, oh, and Next Threat also lost to some random team too. They lost because of millimeter scanners in an S&D, 6-4. So Next Threat is knocked out of the championship bracket, or the qualifier bracket. We're knocked out of the bracket. Obey got knocked out by some Halo Pro, Status Quo. Who else got knocked out? I know another team, Quantic or Fear, is going to get knocked out. Or not Fear, I'm sorry. Fear's still in the winner bracket. Quantic or Complexity is going to get knocked into the losers bracket. Or not in the losers bracket, I'm sorry. Quantic or Complexity is going to get knocked out of the tournament. So, my team Thrust, Obey, Next Threat, Quantic or Complexity, and some other team I can't remember right now is automatically going to have to play in the open bracket. And that's kind of a big deal, because there's going to be at least 4 to 7 pro teams that are going to have to play through open bracket at the event, which means that 3 of the teams, they're automatically going to start Dallas in the losers bracket. And I think that's really interesting, because there's definitely going to be at least 2 to 3 teams starting in losers bracket without even having a chance of getting a seed for MLG Dallas, which means that there's going to be some pro teams that will be knocked out into losers bracket, and they're going to have to face other pro teams in early rounds of the losers bracket. And why is that so interesting, you might ask? Well, that's because COD XP requires you to get top 8 at Dallas, and some of these pro teams are going to be playing each other in the losers bracket before they even have a chance to be in the top 8. So some pro teams are automatically not going to be able to attend COD XP or COD Championships, whatever you want to call it, just because of the way this online bracket qualifier was set up. And that's one of the hugest problems that I have with this whole ordeal, because in the past it was so much different and better. It would be the best teams would play each other on a ladder, and you would get points for beating the other team. Kind of like a league play system in a sense, and the best teams usually would win, and if you won the most, you got the most points. And with this thing, it's just a best of 3, you know? Any team can beat any team, and like you saw last night with United and Soar, Soar came out and they won the first map, Yemen Hardpoint, just like how we beat them on Yemen Hardpoint. Then the second map was Standoff CTF, and if you guys don't know, and I'm not trying to bash Unite in any way, but Unite has this thing, well, everyone has this thing called the veto system, and you could veto any of the maps and modes that you want. So every other map and mode you get to veto. So Unite chose to play Standoff CTF, and they chose to play Standoff CTF against us and Envy, and they beat us and Envy in Standoff CTF, and then they beat Soar last night in Standoff CTF. I don't think that's any coincidence that that map is one of Unite's best maps. And they're abusing the veto system to get the maps that they want to benefit their team, and they're also using fouls and cap 40s, which are completely overpowered. Everyone knows about that. And like I said, I'm not bashing them. You know, they're doing everything they can. They're whatever they can to do to win. I wouldn't blame them for that. You know, like how Fear made Complexity forfeit the map because they wanted to get a map win, so they stay in the bracket. You know, because they want to get the money. I don't blame them for that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's not their fault. It's the way that the people who set up the bracket's fault. I think the map veto system should not be in there. Unite won every single one of their maps. They lose the first hardpoint. They win the next CTF, and then they pull out a search. And that's what it seems to be. It seems to be the model of this entire bracket. The better team would usually win the hardpoint, and then the other team would bounce back and win a CTF, and then it'd go down to a Game 3 search, and any team could win in the search. So that's how all these upsets seem to be happening in this bracket. It happened with Optic. They won the first map hardpoint. They lost the CTF, and then they lost an SMD. And the team that they lost to was using the weirdest, dumbest perks and guns and equipment that was never allowed in the past. And they don't really have too much experience with it, as the other team's been practicing with it. So it's definitely something that if these pros want to be successful, and this includes myself and my team, if we want to be successful moving forward, we need to be acquainted with all the extra stuff that's going to be allowed. And there's nothing we can really do to change it. We can't, you know, they're not going to make a rule change in the middle of the tournament. This is what it's going to be. We have to make the best of it, and we have to be able to adapt. And although I think it doesn't take any skill, it lessens the skill gap between players, and that's why you're seeing all these upsets happen, I feel, because the skill gap just gets lesser and lesser with all the stuff that gets unbanned. So I think we just really need to acquaint ourselves with the equipment and the guns and the perks that are allowed. I saw a Mutation put on Twitter yesterday, you know, it's time to quit playing Pro Call of Duty when they have a perk or an attachment that's the equivalent of wall hacks. And I found that extremely funny. He was talking about the millimeter scanner. Next threat lost because in a Game 3 search, the other team apparently had 4 fouls within the millimeter scanner. So the foul is like a 2 to 3 shot gun. It's kind of like one of those weak semi-automatic snipers that was allowed in any other Call of Duty. So you could pick people off in like 2 to 3 bullets, and it had a millimeter scanner on it, so you could just see them through the wall. So all you have to do is slowly move around, scan the millimeter scanner through the wall. Once you find them, shoot them. You know, it's kind of common sense to do that. Any player can do that. And that's what I mean by the skill gap just getting lesser and lesser. So I think that's why these upsets keep happening. And I think if we want to be able to be successful, we have to adapt to all these rule changes. But with that being said, I think the rule changes shouldn't be there. Something needs to be changed. Let me know what you guys thought of the video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like the video, comment on the video. Let me know your thoughts. I'm out, guys. Peace.